There's a version of success no one warns you about. You know, the one where everything looks like it's working, but you're exhausted holding it all together all the time. The decisions run through you, the pressure, it sits on top of you, the problems land on you like a brick. And somewhere along the way, you stopped leading and you started carrying all of this weight. Not because you're weak, and likely not because you don't have a team, more likely because everything somehow still depends on you. And let's just be honest, you don't trust that it won't fall apart if you step back. How many times have you ever said that or thought that to yourself? You don't trust that it won't fall apart if you take your hands off the wheel. And that's what we're talking about, the cost, because there is a cost to carrying all of it all the time. And I want you to think about where we're headed, and that is this invisible shift. And here's where it starts. You didn't build your business to carry everything. You built it to create something meaningful, something that worked, something that moved. But as the business grew, so did the gaps. But you probably don't see them because you are too far in it. The gaps look like unclear roles, yours and others. Half decisions, way too many of those laying around. Misaligned ownership. Are you the owner or the operator? And people doing things, but not fully owning them, which is really what you've come to expect. And instead of letting things break, because you absolutely could not allow that, because it would feel like failure. So instead of letting things break, you step in. How many times have you ever stepped in instead of letting someone figure it out? You step in and you fill the gap. You make the decisions. You clean it all up. And at first you think, this is what leadership is. This is how I teach. This is how I train. This is what I do. It's my business. But over time, it really becomes dependency. Not because your team isn't capable, they are, you won't let them, but because the system never actually requires them to be capable, because you will always come to the rescue. And that's what you've taught them and your system. So now everything routes back to you. And you want to call it responsibility. You're the owner, you're the business leader, you're the executive. You want to call it responsibility, but it's actually absorption. You absorb all of that out of a lack of trust and out of a real fear. And there's a real cost to operating that way. So let's just stop pretending that this is sustainable because carrying all of that comes with a very big cost. And I don't mean burnout. We all like to use burnout as the thing to explain it away, but burnout is just a symptom. You see, the real cost comes and it sneaks up on you, and it looks like decision fatigue, execution bottlenecks, emotional weight, revenue leakage, and a big one is identity distortion. you've somewhere along the way become both the engine and the emergency backup system. Well, what does that mean for your business? It means that if you ever stop for a moment, pause, take a breath, take a vacation, be present anywhere else, everything feels like it stalls. And maybe it does. Or maybe it's just what you've convinced yourself to be the truth. Either way, that is not leadership. In fact, that feels more like entrapment. And why do you keep doing it? You probably are thinking to yourself, well, I can stop. Well, or why can't I just stop then? If that's what you're telling me. Because it's really not that simple. I wish it were. The issue becomes you've trained the system to rely on you. You don't fully trust what happens without you. You're not leaning into your faith and your trust. You've tied your value to being the one who holds it all together, to being the rescuer, the fixer, the leader. Carrying all of that has become so part of your identity that it makes you feel needed. It makes you feel important. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel like you're the one who can swoop in and fix it and be the hero. But the cost is that it also keeps you trapped. You don't need to work harder for your business to be successful. You don't need to work harder to be seen as a leader. But you do need to stop being the entire system that's leaking from the way you have taught it to function. You see, faith is that trust that your structure can hold what you've been holding, and you're not leaning into that. Your fire is allowing it to disrupt what isn't working. Let that fire burn away the pieces and the parts that aren't working. Get honest about it so you can shift. And your frequency of leadership, start leading from presence and not pressure as you're making this shift. Because what we need from you is more presence, not pressure. You were never actually meant to carry the business. You were meant to lead it. There's a big difference in that. And right now, I suspect you're still carrying way more than you're leading. If this hit, and for some of you, it probably feels like a gut punch, others, a big kick in the chest, it's because you already know where this is happening inside of your business, maybe even your life. You already know where you're overholding, you are over deciding, you are over functioning. The next level of your business doesn't require more of you. It requires less of you inside the system. So ask yourself these two things. One, what are you still carrying that was never yours to hold? What are you still carrying? And two, what would shift for you if you finally put it down?
Leadership isn't what you perform, it's what you embody. If this conversation resonated, share it with someone ready to lead differently. And remember, when your faith ignites your fire amplifies your frequency. Until next time.